second now. I'll tell you when. Oh, it's taken a long time to get going. There we go. We are live.
Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl. How are you?
Oh, yes, I am most wonderful, most wonderful. Good morning,
Yes, a
Beena.
bit in
Good
slow motion,
morning.
but you are most
Yes,
wonderful.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, we had, somebody came on Zoom and it was a big conversation and that made me late. So, all right, and it worked out good because you were doing stuff. So we're starting a little late,
Yes,
but as
yes,
appropriate. Everything is
yes,
always as appropriate, which means you need to have the ability to be flexible. And yes, sometimes, you have to be very specific, but then you have to stop everything else and take care of that. So as appropriate, it's very powerful, this being appropriate. Very, very powerful. It's quite
yes.
wonderful.
So thank you so
It's a
much for
big deal.
joining us, whoever is going to join
Big
us
deal.
live. Hopefully, we have some
No,
friends
no.
who are joining us regularly, almost regularly. Of course, on top, Norma, I hope and assume that you will join us. If not, you are going to watch
Yes,
this recorded.
yes.
So hello and welcome. And yes, and also Christopher Abbott. Yes,
No.
if I'm not saying the name wrong, but okay, this is what.
Yes, Christopher's
Yes,
been coming regularly, and
yes. So
Joseph
and
watches,
Joseph,
even though
yes,
Joseph doesn't
yes,
always come during the live, he does watch it and he comments, and I love
yes,
his
and I
comments, love Norma's
And
comments.
I
It's
saw
wonderful.
I saw a comment which was saying Beena and peanuts. Seriously?
Yes, yeah,
Seriously?
yeah,
This
yeah.
is
It
what
just
you are doing
well,
live with.
no, no, no.
This
It's
is
the AI, the
yeah, this
captions
is
at
what
the
I'm saying.
bottom.
This is what AI is
Yeah,
doing with me.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway, fun,
yeah.
fun things, Joseph.
I love that Joseph notices that
Yes.
and sees the differences, right? It's kind of fun sometimes, especially
Yes. Okay.
with our accents. The
Oh
AI has
yes,
a bit more
yes,
trouble. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Anyway, keep going, keep going. I got
I'm keen to say something about because I saw
please.
a post from Joseph, and he was just taking a picture of a book from Herman Hesse and Siddhartha. That is something,
Mm.
of course, like wow, okay. Why I was so interested and keen, like excited to see that post because Siddhartha, this book is something. It's like a like a big step in my life.
Mm.
It is something like kind of you can say that a milestone in my awareness. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
as big as, of course, as Way of Impeccability, which is like a quantum jump for me. It's like a very
yeah.
really big huge thing, but still, Heaven is like a big huge thing in my life. And I wrote my takeaway on that again second
Yeah,
time
it's
because
very cool. It's very cool.
first time when I was reading, I was literally pulling my hair that come on, like what are you doing? Just sitting there, wasting his
Yeah.
life on the side of the river and just watching it. And I was like,
Uh,
what is this? What this guy is trying to teach us? Like just
yeah.
be idle, do nothing and all that. Because that was me at that time. And then second time, when we did the capital R reading of Siddhartha, not exactly like what we are doing now, but still it was very profound. And then I
No.
write my takeaway on that. That was a completely different thing. So
No.
yes, the profoundness of the book is something, of course, completely different thing. But my shift of my awareness, reading it first time and reading it second time, that was a
Yes.
big,
Yes.
huge
Yes.
difference. And that
Yes.
awareness. So when I was reading capital Siddhartha, I was not doing the capital R reading of that book or Herman Hesse at that time. I was
No.
doing the capital R reading of my awareness also.
Yes.
That was a big,
Exactly.
huge deal because I was able to understand. Of course, I cannot say, and no one can claim that, okay, I understand 100% what Herman Hesse was trying to share at the time. But at least I'm confident enough to say that, okay, that I'm understanding majority of the concepts and ideas, what he and his intent, what he was sharing, and he shared in this book. And that was something very profound. And that was the time I realized that things are not the way we assume they are. We
The world does
always
not
see
work
and
the way we think it does. Yeah.
exactly, we always see things and read people and read situations and circumstances as the projection of our awareness at that time. That is the only thing. As we grow, things change and we perceive them completely different.
Correct.
This is what
Correct.
happened with me.
Correct. Correct. Reality is a function of our awareness. It's not static.
Exactly. So
Not
same
static.
book, same writer, everything was same. I was different.
Different Beena.
My eyes were different. My mind was different. My awareness was different. My intent was different. My receptivity was different. And this is the real magic. So for the
Hello,
first time, it was so
Sher's listening in. Go ahead, sir.
oh yes. Oh, hello, Sher. I'm sorry that I missed you. Again, happy birthday, Sher. You deserve all the birthday wishes throughout the year. Again.
Yes.
You deserve that. And
Wonderful.
so my realization after reading second time Siddhartha, my realization was like, wow, it's not the book, it's me. You can write, anyone can write such an amazing, huge, profoundly, amazingly sophisticated book. People might not get it because we, including myself, we see and perceive things as what awareness at that moment we have. Our awareness project on things and we see things. And it applies to people's reading also. Like, okay, when we read people, when we do capital R reading of people, when we communicate with them, when we interact with them, when we try to understand them, there's always a projection of our own awareness. That's why people say that, oh, it is like, okay, you just assume that, or you think of people as who you are. Not entirely true, because it needs some qualifiers for that, because because it makes you like a stagnant thing. Oh, this is who you are. No, we see and perceive other people as the projection of our awareness at that moment, in that particular moment. And this is something we need to pay attention. That was my thing. So Joseph, I'm very interested if you are going to read that Siddhartha again, as you mentioned that, and then share your takeaway, share your capital R reading about that.
Yeah, before Joseph reads Siddhartha, I'm hoping he read those articles, the stories, that I shared about the Bushmen. Right? You see, what you asked for them, and I sent them, but I didn't hear anything. So I'm keen to know what you thought of the stories. Anything there? I mean, I enjoyed writing those stories, and some stories come out well, others don't. Those all came out very well. So they, as a story, as an article, as a sharing, because I wrote it as part of my whole big memoir, they came out very well. So hopefully they'll be enjoyable as well as interesting and valuable, hopefully too. But hopefully they should be enjoyable. Right? Very exciting, very exciting. So yes, if you do reread Siddhartha, that would be interesting to hear as well. Yeah, always. And this rereading is very important. If we read with the intent to remember, like most people, or just to be entertained, when you read to be entertained, you're not necessarily looking to retain anything. If you're reading to learn, in our typical societal idea of learning, which is memorization, then you're going to come away and you're going to keep a few salient points in your database, in your thing, and you summarize it more or less. And okay, you may not even go that far. Typically, when we read to learn, things go in one ear and out the other ear. You ask a person a month later, this wonderful book, what was, they can tell you very little. But when we read to make it our own, to know, in other words, know to the point of being able to use it, very different logic. Then rereading becomes a whole different thing, because now you're going over and over until you've made it your own, because only when you make it your own can you really use it. Now it becomes a very different thing. And then you'll find, whenever you reread, you find new things. Yes. And I've done this many, many times. not only with Carlos's books, because they're the only ones that I found worth rereading. Because in between all of this stuff, well, at least in book one, in between all of the sorcery and the power of all the stuff, well, the power plants falls under sorcery. In between all of the stuff that is very interesting but unusable for me personally, right? There is much value that is usable because it resonates for me personally with what I'd created on my own. So I'm reading not only what Don Juan has to say, some of it is new, yes, but also I'm reading myself, which is very handy. And that's the magic of making an effort to find something that resonates with you, because you're going to realize the reason it resonates is because this is you. Somebody else may have written, but they're writing you. And that's very important, right? And here is where we come to Don Juan's non-sorcery teachings. This is what I'd worked on all my life before coming to Don Juan, right? And when I saw it, it's like, wow, very cool. Very, very important. And same thing with Beena, right? When there was a lot of resonance, with Siddhartha, right? Beena Sidd, Sidd short for Siddhartha, right? It is the reason why Beena abbreviates her name. It's not only reason, but one of them, right? It's also just convenient, because people can't pronounce her name.
But I was not aware of Siddhartha at all when I chose my name. Yes.
I know.
So this was not the reason I chose
Correct. That's
that.
what I
It
was
was
saying.
just like,
Yeah.
yes.
But afterwards, when we say, oh, wow, this is very cool, wasn't the reason correct? Yeah. Sorry, I misspoke
Yes.
a bit. But anyway,
Yes,
so I'm saying that when we read and we find resonance, and don't say, well, just because you found this valuable, I must. No, there are many, many different things, and people resonate with different things. So find what you resonate with, and then take it further. Because when you take it further, you are now saying, this is a starting point. Yeah, I'm finding what I like, what resonates with me, what I've worked on, what corresponds to me. I could have written this, but I didn't, right? And I'm also learning at the same time. There's also new things always, right? And then you take it further, and that's fantastic. You're taking yourself further. Go ahead, Beena, sorry.
No, I was just enjoying this. And also that why I was just making it very clear that that was not the reason I chose my name. It is not something
sorry,
that,
yes.
yeah. Why I'm doing that? Because I'm very cautious of having any acquiring any self-conception.
Correct.
Because if I connect with myself with Siddhartha first, it's a huge deal. No, I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Sorry, I did misspeak a bit. I meant to say it's cool that there is a sort of a connection there. It's not the reason. Yeah, yes. I misspoke.
Yes, yeah. my friend says that. Okay, Alan says that. Oh, look, nothing happened with by accident. So you choose this name.
Correct.
Okay,
that's more what I was meaning also. Yeah, I misspoke.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool.
And why it is so important? Because we have to be very careful with making associations. First thing, I'm nothing in front of that. So first thing, I need to be very cautious of. Second, I'm nothing, but also I don't want to limit myself to this concept of Siddhartha. No,
it's very important.
As a practitioner of Way-Of-Impeccability, I am nothing, which I understand completely, but also I don't want to associate myself with something which is limited. Now, who knows where I will grow. So I cannot limit myself as a practitioner of Way-Of-Impeccability. We are very, very, very cautious of making any association. That's why I have so far only one self-conception, power learner.
There you go.
Enough for me right now.
There you go. Self-conception. There's a session, a part, major part of Way-of-Impeccability is about self-conception. It's very crucial, right? And self-conception, it's not directly mentioned by Don Juan, but we'll see how it comes in and how important it is, right? It's very important. It's very, very important. But we go into it much more in depth, and we will as it touches upon it. Very cool. Very cool stuff. So we'll see. Now, the key is, when you really want to learn and grow, you need to learn to read yourself, like Beena said. When she was reading Siddhartha, and again, Siddhartha is not, it's just mentioned here, it's not the be-all and end-all of everything. You can't say, oh, Beena is defined by Siddhartha. No, many, many other things come into it, right? And like you said, compared to Way-of-Impeccability, but still, the point is, she was making that point when we reread it, that she was reading herself also. When you find what resonates, you need to read yourself. Reading yourself is very different from reading the material, because now I'm reading to look at how does this connect with me? How does this make sense to me? How does this measure up within my own understanding of things, right? Which is my own personal view of the world, my own personal worldview, personal philosophy. How does this matter to me? My values, my ethics, my morals, etc. And then when you do that, you start to say, wow, yes, I like this. This sounds very cool, but sorry, I can't quite sign off on it because it doesn't fit with me completely, right? And that's when you read yourself. You're seeing yourself through somebody else's sharing. It's never, it may have a lot of overlap, but it's never exact. We're all unique, right? So you've got to take that and from there, connect to your own exact, unique, precious, magical selfness. Yeah? Very important. Yes, Beena?
Yes.
Was that a nice summary of what you were saying?
Most important, exactly.
Yeah. All right, very cool. Let's continue our reading. And we are still with Carlos doing Don Juan teaching Carlos about Datura, right? Datura, Williams AI, it gets it all, I don't know, every time I say Datura, it comes up with something else. So I'll call it what Don Juan mostly calls it, which is devil's weed, okay? Instead of saying Datura, because that's usually what he says. It's easier for the AI to get. Not that the AI is too important, but okay, we like to have fun with the AI. A quick point before we start reading. Actually, may undo the screen sharing here, because with the screen sharing, you won't see it. Beena, I like when you have your video on, and there's actually a very practical reason for it. Yes.
Okay.
For me now, I need to have a focus of where to look. I was watching, I know, one of the clips or something, you know, just, I didn't mean to, it was just there, and I noticed that my eyes are like all over the show. That's because, well, there's some honest to this. For me, I love multitasking. So when I'm talking and my eyes shift like that, internally it's this timing, like this.
You lost your sound, sir.
Yes, I'm pausing, I'm showing, look at the picture, I'm demonstrating something. Let me start again, because you're not obviously getting what I'm saying. All right. So when my eyes are moving around and they go quite quickly, yes, but internally it feels like this from here. Okay.
Ah. Interesting.
See, internally it feels like I'm looking at things for, I don't know, 10 seconds or whatever, a long time, in other words. I mean, there's significant, not a long time, but there's significant pause between looking at in my mind, inside, internally. But when I looked at my eyes, they're like looking, and they're moving like this, like, you know, fairly. That's the speed, the rhythm on the videos. My eyes are always moving because I always am multitasking, and it's part of my awareness training that I am paying attention to the world around me. Yeah, I mean, even if I'm not, I maybe look at my little external monitor here that shows me outside or through the window. Now, I don't always do that. Like if I look out the window, I have to turn my head. But if I just look here, it's very small. But I might just catch that in my wide view, and then look at my other screen over there, because I got a screen in front of me, and then to the side I got another big screen, and underneath that I got another screen, right? So I got a lot of screens around me. I like having multiple monitors. It's very cool. But the point that I'm making is that that I need to basically slow down my eyes, because it makes me look a bit shifty. Do you know what I'm talking about, Beena?
That, I do a lot.
No, you fine. You fine. Your eyes don't jump around like that. Not a problem at all. No. But do you know what I'm talking about in the videos, or
I
you not?
Yeah.
You haven't noticed this, or not?
Not that much, but yes, a bit.
Oh, all right. All right. Well, anyway, so but the point I'm getting to is when you put your video on, I have something that I can look at with steady eyes, right? Because I'm looking at you now. So it's very helpful for
Oh,
that. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't have
Okay.
to put on now. I wasn't hinting. I was just
No, no,
saying
no,
that
no, no. You
it
can say
actually is very
directly
helpful.
also. No problem at
Yeah.
all, of course.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
I
say it
mean,
directly to me. It is
well,
okay. Yes, yes.
I'm at ease. I don't want you to come if you're not comfortable coming, you know. But I love when you come, you know this. I really,
Yeah.
it helps me. But now I have a real practical reason. That's what I'm trying to
Okay,
say.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
I
matters.
understand now.
It
I
actually
understand.
really does matter.
I
Yeah, yeah.
understand
Which
now.
is quite
Okay.
it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. Yeah. You know, I never
Yes.
noticed it as much before, but of course, well, Beena and I are going to be doing our talk show, right? A TV show,
Yes.
and it's going to be on like Amazon Fire TV, Roku, etc. And it's a show. It's our show.
Yes.
The two of us, not with somebody interview. No, it's our show. Likely going to be called the Moreness Show. We haven't fully decided on the name yet, but you know, something
This is
similar to
going
that.
to be, by default, it is going to be two besties show. But yes, we are going to call it
There
something.
you go. There you go. There you go. Yes. The two Moreness Besties show.
Yes, I'm just saying that because actually what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very powerful contender uh for for a name, you know. I mean, we'll have to look up. I suspect there may be other shows that have bestie in the name, you know.
Oh, okay.
I'd be surprised if that name is not already in use. Yeah, no, I would be
Very
very surprised. Yeah,
okay. Let's start reading some.
yeah, yes. All right. Now, also, what did I want to say? So for the show, you know, this is a different logic there. That, you know, we're very casual informant here, but I have to practice things like not having my eyes move all around. It's just part of my awareness, you know, and I'm always interested in everything. And I practiced multitasking. So even when I'm thinking also, when I'm looking in different spots, it's part of me connecting deeply internally. But I have to, you know, it's better not to have the eyes move around that much. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
you can pay attention to it. Also, before we
Yes.
get going, what is my sound quality like? Beena, it's not distorting. 2 days ago,
Okay.
I had to turn the mic up all the way, and it was distorting a little bit. It's not doing that
No.
today.
No,
All right.
not today.
Okay. All right. Okay. Very good. You know, we just need to be aware of this stuff and give
And
feedback.
Zoom camera, Zoom thing is perfectly fine for us because I can see you. Your
Oh
face looked
yeah.
much better. It was like, and
Oh
I
yeah.
you
Oh
were
yeah.
right
Oh
because my face was looking because I have a dark complexion. So and
yeah.
when it was making it more with blue tint, it looks I don't know a bit weird.
It looks,
So
yeah, it
I,
looks very washed out and pale and
yes,
kind of like a bit ghoulish almost. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I
So
was not liking it.
lighting is very crucial. Now, how is the lighting right now? Because I
Yeah,
don't have the.
you have the shade coming on your face. It is coming from one side, and you have the shade a bit darker on the other side.
Okay, well, look now. I mean, I turned the
Yes,
light
see,
on. Is it caught up? Is the lights both sides now?
still you are sharing a screen, so your picture is very tiny.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. All right. Let me unshare. Is it?
Okay.
Can you see it? The lighting is better now, right?
Yes.
Now I don't have the background light on. Is there shimmering? Is there bleed through? Do I need to put the
No.
background light on? No? Okay.
No.
Well,
No.
then I don't need to do that. Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to sharing. You know, I mean, this stuff is important to share because somebody might say, yeah, but you know what? You guys could have talked about this stuff beforehand. Well, we didn't have time beforehand. But I also share it knowing that it's not on our topic specifically, but I share because it's helpful information for those who are doing similar. Now, the reason I asked about the background light is because I have a green screen. Let's see. There, I'm touching the green screen now. Of course, you don't see it because it's showing the image. But I learned this from the producer of our show that we're going to be. I mean, it's a regular show with adverts and commercials and everything. And, you know, a producer that tells us 1 minute to advert and, you know, switch, wrap it up, whatever, you know, giving us that, you know, what producers do. But the producer said that that shimmering that you sometimes get, you know, bleed through, it's because your green screen isn't even, and the lighting on it has some shadow. So it helps to put a background light on the green screen. But this full light that I have is also helping for that shimmer. So just make sure you get good lighting. Yeah, very important. Now this light that I have, the full light, as you can see here, see with the shadow, my hand, typically this is where the comfortable position is for, making points, but I have to move it, and it's a bit uncomfortable. But what can you do? Yeah, actually, when I sit more in the middle is better. All right, so little things are important. Yes, and again, the sound check. Of course, you'll do this beforehand. That's what the engineers are there for. Before you do a show, they'll do the sound check and all that, and they have the ability to adjust your levels, which is why the thing is there. But now, just for the two of us, we have to do this ourselves manually. Right? Well, it's just good to be aware of all these little things, and also, really, what would be helpful is many times my level is higher than Beena's, or Beena's is higher than mine. It's very important that you have a third-party check to hear that you guys are coming out, like if there are two or more of you, that everyone is coming out at the same level of it's not volume only, but like when you're recording, you have those recording levels, those need to be the same, because otherwise, on the receiving end, you're going to hear one person faintly and the other one loudly, and then you've got to constantly fiddle with your volume, which is not practical, and you're going to stop watching, right? So little things are very important. Yeah, very important. So when you find the setting that's right, stick with it. Don't be changing your settings, so that you have something that's consistent. Yeah, very important. And also to have the right level. Otherwise, I see some videos on YouTube that they're so quiet, I have to turn my volume up like crazy. And then the next one obviously blasts my ears off. Yeah? So that's very important. Even when it's normal, their volume was okay. So very important to have this stuff be right. All right, let's read. Do you want to read, Beena?
No, please continue.
Okay. Okay. Well, yes, this is all Don Juan anyway. So I thought, maybe we can alternate. But no, there it goes back to old Carlos again. So it's only the section. All right. So we still with Don Juan teaching Carlos how to get the value out of the Datura plant, the devil's weed or Jimson weed, and he's explaining things. But we are looking not to know the details of this, because it's not something that we're going to use, but to understand Don Juan, understand his worldview, his attitude, his mindset, and Carlos not likely, but Carlos also, because the two in the contrast is very valuable to see the difference. Okay. Then he began to talk. My benefactor told me it was permissible to mix the plant with lard, and that is what you are going to do. My benefactor mixed it with lard for me, but as I've already said, I never was very fond of the plant and never really tried to become one with her. My benefactor told me that for best results, for those who really want to master the power, the proper thing is to mix the plant with the lard of a wild boar. Hey, I had a dream last night. There was a wild boar in my dream, now that I think of it. To hunt a wild boar and get the fat from the intestines. In other times, when the devil's weed was tops, brewers used to go on special hunting trips to get fat from wild boars. They sought the biggest and strongest males. They had a special magic for wild boars. They took from them a special power, so special that it was hard to believe, even in those days. But that power is lost. Yeah, I don't know anything about it, and I don't know any man who knows about it. Perhaps the weed herself will teach you all that. Um, just really quickly talking about the dreams. I had a dream about being here where I'm at now, and there's kind of a fence off to the side that goes to the front, and then I was kind of near this fence, and the neighbor sort of diagonally was coming out into the middle of the road that goes across, and my very next door neighbor was halfway across talking to them. And I was observing them, and my very next door neighbors knew, and I never see them, right? So very mysterious. I don't really know, also more or less an idea what they look like. So I was there by the fence, looking through a crack in the fence, and I could see them, and I could observe my neighbor, but they couldn't see me. But this was so real. Only this morning when I got up, something happened. Oh, actually, that was a dream. It didn't actually happen. It was a very
Wow.
real dream. Yeah, it was very cool. Anyhow, just a little aside there. We're going to come to dreams and dreaming. This is not a spoiler. This is a teaser to say that dreaming, capital D dreaming, in the book it's italicized, right? Because Don Juan puts a special emphasis on it. So the technique that Carlos uses is to italicize this, which I guess is standard in writing. Yeah, but I feel that this is where understanding that when Don Juan says dreaming, he means capital D dreaming, which it's a whole different thing to regular dreaming, right? And this part of the language of conceptionality is when we say capital R reading, capital H hearing, capital R, capital D dreaming, right? Or they have we know now because of that that there is a moreness to it than the usual, and that's very, very important, right? And now you hear what's being said differently. When you understand, oh, he's talking about capital D dreaming, you're listening differently, you're paying different attention. So it is this point of saying capital D this or capital this, it is a mnemonic device, an attention leveraging device, and it's very sophisticated. Plus, it also provides clarity, because now you understand that we're talking about something more. It's not different, but more, right? Because a capital D dreaming is still using the basic foundation of regular dreaming, right? Same with capital D diplomacy. There's a little bit of regular diplomacy, but the two are vastly different, but they are connected, right? So that's what makes that such a powerful tool. Yeah, it's very sophisticated. Don Juan measured a handful of lard, dumped it into the bowl containing the dry gruel, and scraped the lard left on his hand onto the edge of the pot. He told me to stir the contents until they were smooth and thoroughly mixed. I whipped the mixture for nearly 3 hours. Well, good for you, Carlos. Very industrious. For an academic, Carlos can be quite industrious in doing tasks like this, which is good. Which is good, it's a good part of Carlos that he does do. Yeah, otherwise we'd never have any of these books. Yeah, Don Juan looked at it from time to time and thought it was not done yet. Finally, he seemed satisfied. The air whipped into the paste had given it a light gray color and the consistency of jelly. He hung the bowl from the roof next to the other bowl. Sorry, he said he was going to leave it there until the next day, because it would take 2 days to prepare the second portion. He told me not to eat anything in the meantime. I could have water, but no food at all. 2-day fast. For a city boy from LA, that's quite a serious ask, right? He's not used to fasting. The next day, Thursday, 4 July, Don Juan directed me to leach the root 4 times. By the last time I poured the water out of the bowl, it had already become dark. We sat on the porch. He put both bowls in front of him. The evening had become dark, not the water. Yeah? That's just a little writing tip here. By the last time I poured the water out of the bowl, it had become dark. Technically, he's talking about the water here, not, see? Right?
Yes.
Because, and also in context, it's quite valid to read it that way. Wow. Because the last time, he talked about the color of the water. And, the more you're leaching it, of course, the little bit left over is going to be more concentrated potentially, right? So I'm not sure if he's meaning now, but we sat on the porch, so I'm assuming it's nighttime, right? But it's not clear there. And just pay attention to what you mean and what somebody could read, just as a writing tip. But it's also a discernment tip, right? It's also a perspective shifting tip. It's also an awareness tip. Don't just look at things from your bubble. Look at it from other bubbles also, right? Simple thing, but important. We sat on the porch. He put both bowls in front of me. The root extract measured a teaspoon of a whitish starch. You see, and here comes color again. So very valid there. Anyway, he put it into a cup and added water. He rotated the cup in his hand. He swirled, in other words. He swirled the cup to dissolve the substance and then handed the cup to me. He told me to drink all that was in the cup. I drank it fast and then put the cup on the floor and slumped back. My heart began pounding. I felt I could not breathe. Don Juan ordered me, matter-of-factly, to take off all my clothes. I asked him why. Of course, Carlos, city boy, back in those times, conservative, taking off your clothes up. Nope, nope, nope. But anyway, I asked him why. And he said, I had to rub myself with a paste. I hesitated. I did not know whether to undress. Don Juan urged me to hurry up. He said, there was very little time to fool around. I removed all my clothes. Now, whenever Carlos does things like this, right, hesitating because of, prudence, stiffness, embarrassment, self-importance, any nonsense, he calls it fooling around, which is rather interesting word choice, right? Or at least choice in translation. But yeah, I removed all my clothes. Also, you can see Don Juan has an understanding of psychology, right? Because, well, not so much here, but when Carlos says why, then Don Juan gives him the reason. Now that Carlos has a reason, he can do it. If Carlos didn't have a reason, likely he'd now really get stuck, Or he might do it, but very reluctantly, simply because Don Juan says so. But having a reason makes it easier. It's quite fascinating how our brains work when it comes to having reasons. I removed all my clothes. He took his bone stick and cut 2 horizontal lines on the surface of the paste, thus dividing the contents of the bowl into 3 equal parts. Then, starting at the center of the top line, he cut a vertical line perpendicular to the other 2, dividing the paste into 5 parts. He pointed to the bottom right area and said that was for my left foot. The area above it was for my left leg. The top and largest part was for my genitals. The next one below on the left side was for my right leg, and the area on the bottom left was for my right foot. He told me to apply the part of the paste designated for my left foot to the sole of my foot and rub it thoroughly. Then he guided me in applying the paste on the inside of my whole left leg, on my genitals, down the inside of my whole right leg, and finally on the sole of my right foot. So you're going up the one side, down the other side. Now, very interesting method for ingestion. Okay? Because our skin also absorbs things, right? We ingest via the skin also, as we know from, spy novels where the spies, they put a coating on their hand, put poison on their hand, and they shake hands and they poison somebody, right? You can absorb through your skin. But you say, well, okay, from a medical point of view, yes, or biological point of view, there are more efficient ways to ingest. Why through the legs? Why not just drink it down, right? Now we're going to, I don't know if Don Juan mentions it here specifically, but in Don Juan's worldview, his understanding of things, the legs have particular, all parts of the body, every different part of the body has a different significance. Like I think Don Juan said that we store memories in our thighs, in the back of our thighs particularly. Yeah? So this is very important to Don Juan, that the body does different things. And it's not, again, if we look at Eastern stuff, that, Eastern learning, understanding, right, worldviews, cosmology, whatever, we also have their understandings of, well, particularly the soles of the feet. Yes. And I remember in Kwai Chang Caine, Kung Fu, the legend, that whole series, in the remake of it, the Ancient, he was called, right? The Ancient said there was like an assassin or whatever, and somebody came along and it was causing some disturbance. And the Ancient came to where this guy was and was feeling him and connecting to him to get some indication of him. And he said, oh, this is a serious fellow. He breathes through the soles of his feet. Yeah, making him connected to the earth. Right? Now, it's a TV show, but, sometimes we find value everywhere. Now, when you put it together with lots of other things, that was a very real statement that the Ancient had made. It wasn't just some writer sucking it out of his thumb, right? It's a very real thing. And that ability to actually breathe through the soles of your feet. You aren't technically breathing, but you're absorbing energy through it, and you do it via breath, right? It was very potent technique. And we, as we go along, I'll elaborate more on these techniques. Because if I stop on this now, we're going to be a week on it. So I'm rather going to just touch on it, mention, and go a little further next time, a little further, and eventually we'll get the whole topic. Now, does this mean you sort of have to watch a lot? Yes, but so be it. It's the only way to really absorb much complex, sophisticated information. Yeah? And that's why I'm doing it this way. Now, if we were doing it a bit more formally, like through Way of Impeccability, then yes, there's a whole session on this. Well, not on this one specifically, but they are related. And it's a different way of doing it. But just know that even though we're touching on things, there's more coming. Right? And Beena Norma said about feelings. Oh, she was talking about yesterday's open or live. You know, Norma calls it an open, and we adopted that term, and it's very cool to call it an open rather than a live, because it is an open. That she said, oh, I wish you'd said more about feeling. It will come, Norma. It will come. We'll talk a lot about it. It's a huge topic. To do it only in one time, then everything will only be about that. And so we want to keep to our theme, and we'll just touch on these points, and over time they build up. Very, very powerful way to learn also, because you get a little bit more, and you make it your own, then you add. So it's a nice way to do this. And you'll see this happening with Don Juan too. It's not that he's necessarily consciously and deliberately doing it, as I am now, but he may be, I don't know, it's quite possible. Well, I know in some instances he does this, but it just happens as a natural function of sharing complexity. It's very difficult to zoom in on one, especially when you've got other things going on. So it just happens, But this absorption now through the feet is very significant and meaningful. It's not just an idiosyncrasy, all right? Don Juan will elaborate a little bit on it at another time in a different context, and then we put it all together. And this is one of the things that makes us reading Don Juan so valuable, is that I am able to bring stuff from elsewhere and apply it now. It's very useful. It's very, very useful, because we get more out of the understanding, right? I followed these directions. The paste was cold and had a particularly strong odor. When I had finished applying it, I straightened up. The smell from the mixture entered my nostrils. It was suffocating me. The pungent odor was actually choking me. It was like a gas of some sort. I tried to breathe through my mouth and tried to talk to Don Juan, but I couldn't. Don Juan kept staring at me. I took a step toward him. My legs were rubbery and long, extremely long. I took another step. My knee joints felt springy like a vault bowl. They shook and vibrated and contracted elastically. I moved forward. The motion of my body was slow and shaking. It was more like a tremor forward and up. I looked down and saw Don Juan sitting below me, way below me. The momentum carried me forward one more step, which was even more elastic and longer than the preceding one. And from there, I soared. I remember coming down once. Then I pushed up with both feet, sprang backwards, and glided on my back. I saw the dark sky above me and the clouds going by me. I jerked my body so I could look down. I saw the dark mass of the mountains. My speed was extraordinary. My arms were fixed, folded against my sides. My head was a directional unit. If I kept it bent backwards, I made vertical circles. Vertical circles, so like loop the loops, in other words. Yeah? Okay. I changed directions by turning my head to the side. So like a joystick, in other words. His head is his joystick now. Yeah. I enjoyed such freedom and swiftness as I've never known before. The marvelous darkness gave me a feeling of sadness or longing, perhaps. It was as if I had found a place where I belonged, the darkness of the night. It's fascinating, the sadness, how it comes in with Carlos especially. He's a bit of a melancholy character. I mean, he's got a romanticness to him that flip side of the Romance era, right? You know, if you look at romance poets, a lot of them had consumption and, oh, it was so tragic and romantic, right? So there's tragic romance, which is like, I don't know, some people are very enamored with it, Carlos being one of those. Huh? So this sadness comes in. It's also a bit of mentality of opposites. He's experiencing something wonderful, and this makes him sad because he's comparing it to what he had before. Yeah? Comparative mindset. Be absolutely wary of comparative mindset. So, yep, Substack, grain. This is a nice clip here on comparative mindset. Comparative mindset is when we are obviously always comparing, but also we are comparing via mentality of opposites. They typically go together. Now, mentality of opposites is, and says, if something is not something, it is its opposite, which of course is logically and practically false. Yeah, I mean, if something is not pink, it's not necessarily its opposite, even if pink has an opposite. But we tend to think this way. So in other words, if something is not white, then it must be in inverted commas, it must be black, which is how we think. It's complete rubbish. So in other words, if what I have now is wonderful, then it must be that what I had before wasn't wonderful. Nonsense. And was terrible and horrible. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But we think this way, right? Or at least we've been taught to think this way. It's part of the superiority paradigm. Because in the superiority paradigm, I am the most important. Therefore, what is not me is unimportant, right? And it comes from that. Everything is premised on this superiority of the individual, the supposed superiority, and the attempt to gain that superiority and avoid the inferiority. So superiority, inferiority, winner, loser, etc., etc. It's a horrible mindset. And it is absolutely devastating in its effect on us as human beings. And part of it is this constant comparison. Yes, always comparing to see if it's better or worse. That's the comparative mindset, right? Better or worse. And the extreme, of course, is the mentality of opposites, which says, no, it's excellent or it's horrible. There's no in between. What a terrible way to live. What a waste of your psychology, your awareness. Horrible, horrible. And all to do what? Satisfy your ego. Yeah, no. Horrible, horrible. Anyway, and we see this in Carlos coming here, this unnecessary sadness or longing, you know. Suddenly, I knew it was time to come down. It was as if I'd been given an order I had to obey, and I began descending like a feather with lateral motions, right? Kind of like skiers do on a steep mountain slope also. The type of movement made me very ill. It was slow and jerky, as though I was being lowered by police. I got sick. My head was bursting with the most excruciating pain. A kind of blackness enveloped me. I was very aware of the feeling of being suspended in it. The next thing I remember is the feeling of waking up. I was in my bed in my own room. Oh, I sat up, and the image of my room dissolved. I stood up. I was naked! Exclamation mark. I'm a bit amused at Carlos's kind of squeamishness in a way. Right? I was naked. The motion of standing made me sick again. I recognized some of the landmarks. I was about half a mile from Don Juan's house, near the place of his Datura plants. Suddenly, everything fitted into place. And I realized that I would have to walk all the way back to his house, naked. To be deprived of my clothes was a profound psychological disadvantage, but there was nothing I could do to solve the problem. Now, I mentioned this profound conception, this capitalized power conception from our dictionary of power, of independence of being. Carlos does not have independence of being. And we never really get to see him have that independence of being. Don Juan very clearly does. We're going to see it very much also with Don Gennaro. Don Gennaro starts coming into in book 2 and book 3. He's a constant there as well. So we get to know Don Gennaro as well. Very magical person, individual. But we see their independence of being, and it's a sharp, marked contrast to Carlos. They have much joy and mirth and merriment and humor because of Carlos's foolishness, right? And this, you'll see. At any rate, if Carlos had independence of being, you walk back naked, so be it. You got to do it. That's it. It doesn't bother you one way. It's not something you may necessarily look to do, to be naked. Well, it's not like it's really naked in public. It's in the desert with Don Juan, for heaven's sake. There's nobody around, right? In a remote area. But that's the thing with self-importance and lack of independence of being. See, he says, it was a profound psychological disadvantage because you don't have independence of being. So the clothes become a crutch. Yeah, they make you feel a bit safe. It's all nonsense. They make you feel a bit protected. You know, when I look at people or anybody who has some discernment, when they look at you, they see you naked, clothes or no clothes. They see your psychology naked. The thing that the clothes is not to protect his actual nakedness, but to protect himself psychologically. Even saying it, right? Profound psychological disadvantage. You have independence of being, none of that is there. You're not vulnerable, you're not at issue. Right? So very important, this it's just one aspect of independence of being. Many other aspects to it as well, but we see it here, right? Very important to pay attention. Does that make sense, Beena, as an example? Is a good example?
Yes, it is a very interesting example, I must say. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes you think, you see. Again,
Exactly.
it doesn't mean we are going to go out and be naked in public for no reason, because there's also strategy involved, right? You got to take
Yes.
the people and their issues with it, right? And obviously in our world today, you know, you're going to get picked up by the police if you walk around naked. This happened. I was
Exactly.
driving down the road to the post office, and I said to Beena, and I came back, I said, oh, you know what happened? I saw a naked man running in the middle of the street. Now, the particular street has got essentially 5 lanes. 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going another way, and then a center lane for when you need to cross over, right? When you want to turn, right? Is that center lane, right? Which you use for turning. He was running down the street during the center lane. And all he had on was like a scarf tied around his waist. Yeah. And he was jogging down the middle of the road, completely naked, right? It's quite fascinating. But he had a look on his face of being resigned to, well, it can't be helped. Something I got to do. There you go, you know. And he just, so maybe he lost a bet, or maybe he was a werewolf that had changed, and, you know, his clothes got ripped to shreds and or got lost, and he changed back into human. I don't know. I was reading at the time, I was reading a story that had werewolves in it, you know, a fantasy story. So it made me think, well, they always talk about this, right? The clothes get lost and then you end up being naked. But he was resigned, you know, whatever reason, whatever had happened to cause this, it's just like, okay, I got to do it. And I just had to get it over and done with. So this was on my way to the post office. When I came back, I saw police cars on the side. I couldn't see him there, but I'm guessing they came and stopped and dealing with it. So anyway, I'm saying just because we have independence of being doesn't mean we can do things like that, or we want to do things like that. No, it just means should we need to, we can. And this is the magic of independence of being. It gives us the ability to be appropriate. In this case, it's appropriate to walk back and not have any, all your psychological disadvantage and discomfort and uncomfortableness. It's a waste of energy, Carlos. Complete and utter waste of energy. It doesn't bring you any value whatsoever. Now, if you were in public and you're down the street and you're obviously very comfortable and embarrassed, now it can serve a value. Anybody looking at, oh, you know, whatever happened, somebody stole his clothes or something, they obviously don't want to be this way, which makes it okay. Yeah. If you walk down the street quite comfortable being naked, then, oh, what's going on here? Is the exhibitionist was, and people are going to take it negatively. Yeah? Very interesting, right? But there was nothing I could do to solve the problem. I thought of making myself a skirt with branches, but the thought seemed ludicrous. And besides, it was soon going to be dawn, for the morning twilight was already clear. I forgot about my discomfort and my nausea and started to walk towards the house. I was obsessed with the fear of being discovered. It's fascinating. For my personal mind, this is just incomprehensible, but I know it is something that is very real for many, many people. Many people have dreams about, you know, being naked in front of the class, because this is such a big obsession, fear. And based on what, I have no idea. I watched for people and dogs. I tried to run, but I hurt my feet on the small, sharp stones. I walked slowly. Now you have to pay attention, especially bare feet. That's, yeah, we're very careful. It was already very clear. And I saw somebody coming up the road, and I quickly jumped behind the bushes. My situation seemed so incongruous to me. A moment before, I'd been enjoying the unbelievable pleasure of flying. The next minute, I found myself hiding, embarrassed by my own nakedness. I thought of jumping out on the road again and running with all my might past the person who was coming. I thought he would be so startled that by the time he realized it was a naked man, I would have left him far behind. I thought all that, but I did not dare to move. The person coming up the road was just upon me and stopped walking. Worst fears. Worst fears coming true. I heard him calling my name. Ah, okay. Well, obviously now it was Don Juan. And he had my clothes. As I put them on, he looked at me and laughed. He laughed so hard that I wound up laughing too. Of course, it was hilarious. It's totally funny, right? And the same day, Friday, 5 July, late in the afternoon, Don Juan asked me to narrate the details of my experience. As carefully as I could, I related the whole episode. The second portion of the devil's weed is used to fly, he said when I had finished. The unguent by itself is not enough. My benefactor said that it is the root that gives direction and wisdom, and it is the cause of flying. Wow. As you learn more, you take it often in order to fly. And take it often in order to fly, you will begin to see everything with great clarity. You can soar through the air for hundreds of miles to see what is happening at any place you want, or to deliver a fatal blow to your enemies far away. See how the superiority paradigm comes into things. In the superiority paradigm, you've got enemies. Beena, do you have any enemies?
Enemies?
Yeah. Or what an appropriate response. That was absolutely and most appropriate response. Look how Beena answered. Enemies? Like, Syl, are you really asking this question? What a preposterous idea. What a preposterous, absurd idea. Same for me.
Exactly.
This idea, and it's just ridiculous. But in the superiority paradigm, you've got enemies. It's just taken for granted you have enemies. And of course, when you act this way, you're going to create the very thing, right? Because you're cueing it to happen. You're going to engender it, right? You're going to create the environment for it, and people are going to be your enemies simply because you're expecting them to be. But what an absurdity, right? So this is one of the uses of it, to deliver a fatal blow to your enemy. And there are still people in the world who have this mindset. You'll see it, right? And unfortunately, in Beena's area of the world, there are young men that get abused and manipulated and perverted. And this, they have some of this in them, and this gets manipulated and gets them to do all sorts of horrible things, right? But that's the thinking, right? And you can see to that mindset, right? The eyes will go all big. Wow, wow, this will be so cool to go and deliver a fatal blow to my enemies. Yes, yes, yes. You know, this will be a massively appealing thing to do, but only if you lost, because all those sad young men, and they're all very sad, and they typically recruit them. Beena was telling me, you know, something I learned from her. They recruit them from like the homeless and people that are outcast for whatever reason or whatever, right? People have nothing. And you see it in America too, all those. There's a fascinating guy. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but you could probably look him up. He was a full-on member from a teenager, from a youth of a neo-Nazi gang. And then he left them because he started to become aware of what was going on. And, you know, and his awareness said, but this is not cool. But he talks about, he remembers his unawareness. He said, at the time, I didn't really know what they were about, and it didn't really matter. They took me in, and I had fellowship. They gave me attention. I had a community. I felt I belonged somewhere. This is why I stayed, right? When you lost, something like that is exceedingly precious. And of course, those in it, they know this, and they manipulate and use it. Again, that's the extreme of not having independence of being. It makes you extremely vulnerable to manipulation. No? Anyway, so this is a big point here, that this whole mindset of enemies and all this nonsense, it's all about the superiority paradigm. It makes you vulnerable. And what an absurdity. I love your response, Beena. Thank you. You know, it's not that, I couldn't have hoped for a better response. Not that I'm always looking for a particular response for Beena. Obviously, Beena's always going to be honest, right? So I don't want to give that wrong impression here. But this is just like, it's a laughable absurdity to think of having enemies. Yes. A laughable absurdity. The preposterousness of enemies. That could be the clip's title.
Exactly.
A little backwards.
Exactly. Very good title, actually.
The preposterousness of enemies.
We can have difference of opinion. We can have manipulators in our lives. Some interaction with manipulators, VMNs. Yes.
Exactly.
We can have people who lie, who cheat.
Yeah.
But enemy is something, it's a different, completely different entity. It's a constant thing, which is
Yeah.
completely contradiction to way of impeccability, because we always say that everyone has
Exactly.
innate goodness. So how can one be
Exactly.
our enemy if
Yeah.
we have, they have
Right.
some goodness in it,
Right.
and we have
Right.
some awareness? So again, it's our projection, Syl.
Right.
Always.
So this is absolutely intrinsic to Moreness culture.
Exactly.
Moreness culture says we are going to get rid of all of this rubbish, this nonsense, this detriment that comes from the superiority paradigm, like enemies. And there's no such conception in Moreness culture. It's just preposterous. Why on earth can't everybody be your friend? Because, see, in Moreness culture, it's about collaboration, not even cooperation, because you can still cooperate with an enemy. It's very hard to collaborate with an enemy. Yes, it's technically possible, but when you are into collaboration as your mindset and not competition as your default, now you collaborate with your friends, and it's a joyful thing. It's wonderful. It's magical. It's more. It's awesome. Right? Whenever you collaborate with friends, you get moreness out of it. You get more than you can do on your own. Through competition, yes, you can push yourself to go further, but you never get anywhere close to the benefits that you do from collaboration. Think of any major project, building a skyscraper, a bridge, or any major just construction project. Think of it being done via competition. Not really going to happen. It has to happen via collaboration. Yeah? Right? Maybe cooperation too, but when it's collaborative, you get fantasticness. When you look at collaborative artists, when they work together in any field, doesn't matter, music or whatever, visual arts, you get these incredible things happening. And look at the collaboration between Beena and I. What a fantastically, incredibly beautiful, wonderful, brilliant thing it is. Yeah. So Moreness culture, collaboration, everybody's your friend. You get moreness out of it. Everybody's your ally. You share with everybody. Moreness on top of moreness. Competition culture, comparative culture. No, you end up with enemies. Oh, who the hell wants to have enemies in their life? Not me. Thank you very much. All right. Deliver the fatal blow to your enemies far away. Not for us, thank you. As you become familiar with the devil's weed, she will teach you how to do such things. For instance, she has taught you already how to change directions. In the same manner, she will teach you unimaginable things. Now, when Don Juan says teach you something, the smoke will teach you, the devil's weed, she will teach you, the lizards will teach you, whatever, right? He means it in a somewhat different way to what we understand teach, right? Like when Mescalito taught Carlos, right, through certain physical movements, like it could cause something to happen in the other, right? The teaching here is via showing, not telling. You always see this in writing: show, don't tell. Well, all of these things have a commonality. They teach through showing. So Carlos was shown this not as a visual, but well, he happened to move his head, and he changed. Now, Carlos in his brain likely thinks, well, I wasn't really taught. I just sort of discovered this on my own, randomly, accidentally. No, it wasn't random or accidental, right? It was there, and something made you move your head. That something is the thing that's teaching you, right? So this is a very, very interesting and a very direct way of teaching. But I'm mentioning this so that when we hear Don Juan use the word teach, particularly in these contexts, it means a showing in some way, an innate discovery that's automatic, right? You learn directly, right? You don't have to go through the steps of memorizing it, making it all this, right? Direct learning, very, very potent, right? She will teach you unimaginable things. Like what? And for me, I would, in my writing and language, that's capital T teach. Yes. And when you read it, capital T teach. Okay, I know now. It's in my dictionary of power. I know what this means. Yeah, as opposed to regular teaching. There's a difference, right? And I make that distinction, and those distinctions are absolutely critical. Yeah? Very, very powerful. Like what, Don Juan? That I can't tell you. Every man is different. My benefactor never told me what he had learned. He told me how to proceed, but never what he saw. That is only for oneself. Now, this understanding that things are only for oneself, this uniqueness and keeping it private. This is a carryover also from superiority paradigm. Yes, it is not necessarily so, as we are going to see, but it's something that's very deep in the history of Don Juan. Don Juan is not a BM man, and he's not into the superiority paradigm. Yet much of what he has learned comes from a time like this enemy blow nonsense, when this was absolutely the be-all and end-all of everything. And that was the goal and the focus and the purpose. His lineage evolved out of that, but many of the stuff is still rooted in that. Much like our language is still very much rooted in superiority culture, right? And we live in a culture that is still in superiority paradigm. Doesn't mean we can't get out of it, but we have to be aware. We have to be aware. But I tell you all I see, Don Juan. Now you do, and later you will not. The next time you take the devil's weed, you will do it by yourself, around your own plants, because that is where you will land, around your plants. Remember that. That is why I came down here to my plants to look for you. He said nothing more, and I fell asleep. When I woke up in the evening, I felt invigorated. For some reason, I exuded a sort of physical contentment. I was happy, satisfied. Don Juan asked me, "Did you like the night, or was it frightful?" I told him that the night was truly magnificent. "How about your headache? Was it very bad?" he asked. The headache was as strong as all the other feelings. It was the worst pain I've ever had, I said. Would that keep you from wanting to taste the power of the devil's weed again? I don't know. I don't want it now, but later I might. I really don't know, Don Juan. There was a question I wanted to ask him. I knew he was going to evade it, so I waited for him to mention the subject. I waited all day. See Carlos's manipulative side coming out a little bit. I waited all day. Finally, before I left that evening, I had to ask him. Yeah, again, this indulgence of Carlos. He knows it's indulgence, and yet he does it anyway. Did I really fly, Don Juan? Now I'm asking it in a stupid tone of voice, because it's a constant stupid question that Carlos asks, right? He has to know this. Did I really fly? What the hell difference does it make? Yeah. That is what you told me, didn't you? I know, Don Juan. I mean, did my body fly? Did I take off like a bird? You always ask me questions I cannot answer. You flew. That is what the second portion of the devil reads for. And you take, as you take more of it, you will learn how to fly perfectly. It is not a simple matter. A man flies with the help of the second portion of the devil's weed. That's all I can tell you. What you want to know makes no sense. Birds fly like birds, and a man who has taken the devil's weed flies as such. As birds do? No, he flies as a man who has taken the weed. Then I didn't really fly, Don Juan. I flew in my imagination, in my mind alone. Where was my body? This is so important to Carlos. He's so hung up on this. Why? Because of the self-importance, the psychology. If we do a bit of psychoanalysis here from Way-Of-Impeccability of Carlos and motive psychology, we look at this. What is his motivation? The motivation is to avoid embarrassment, to be self-important. Yeah. And having illusions, this is a great big fear to the self-important. Yeah, to only believe things in your mind. That's most embarrassing, and that makes you weak and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So this is his fear. Yeah. It's not a real thing, doesn't really matter. He's not looking at it from a value perspective. No, he's looking at it via the lens of self-importance. Makes us understand this question a little bit different, right? Then I didn't really fly, Don Juan. I flew in my imagination, in my mind alone. Where was my body? In the bushes, he said cutly, but immediately broke into laughter again. The trouble with you is that you understand things in only one way. Right? Significant quote. Yes, Beena? And I think we'll end on this quote. Yes? You think of things in only, you understand things in only one way. Yes, this limited perspective, which is why in Way-Of-Impeccability, it is so absolutely crucial to understand the power and the potency of perspective shifting, to multiple perspectives. When we practice this and make this an innate default way in which we apprise and perceive the world, then we don't get stuck like Carlos in looking at it from only one way. Because only one way is very limiting. Yeah? And the more ways you see, the greater the whole. You don't have to see all ways, but there comes a point where you are able to put together the whole. That's incredibly, incredibly valuable and powerful. Right? Very, very big deal. Joseph, yeah. Yeah, I say Gennaro, but it's probably Genaro, yeah, or Genaro, but I would imagine Genaro, right? Or Genaro, yeah. I say Gennaro. Now, that's just, I forgot to mention this because, well, we're not really with Don Gennaro. I'm saying Don Gennaro because he is Don Gennaro to me. And if he was likely here, I'd still call him Gennaro kind of like as a nickname, right? Because when I read this, I had no idea of Spanish pronunciation, where they typically pronounce the G as an H, right? Or the H sound, right? That I have in my thing, but still I was reading it in English, so it was Don Gennaro to me. Don Juan was Don Juan for me for the longest time, right? Now, I never spoke to anybody about Don Juan. And so it was internally in my mind, I said, Juan. I'd never heard the word. I'd never heard that name pronounced by anybody. I never even read it anywhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why I always. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that's why I
go.
always say everyone that because I learned this language initially. I learned this language by reading, so the pronunciation was non-existing there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly, and just to be aware. Now, I like saying Gennaro. Don Juan never sounded right to me, and I never got comfortable with it, right? But I like saying Gennaro rather than Genaro, right? So he's Don Gennaro to me. I know it's Genaro or Genaro or pronounced differently, but that's who he is to me. And Don Gennaro is a very special character to me. So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate the corrections, Joseph, very much. So again, when we get to Don Gennaro, I'll repeat this point about my pronunciation. And I did think I mentioned it about Don Juan when we started. That initially I said it that way, right? And
we can pronounce. We both can pronounce different sounds like "h," which is a bit difficult for. Right. And I believe that Syl can pronounce "r" also because we have. We have Urdu speaking and Hindi speaking people and Arabic speaking people. They have three weird kind of like interesting sound like "a," "ra," and "ha." So this is and they're very typical to it, especially "qa." "Qa" is very specific to Arabic only, and Persian and Urdu. But my point was why I was saying that yes, it is. We know that we might not be pronouncing it right, and sometimes AI is having a hard time. But actually, what is happening, like how the universe is working, every single time I might mispronounce something, you guys always put attention to that, and of course, everyone else is going to be. It is going to be by default that it will bring more attention to that. So yes, it is good, but it is also helping to stay connected with the thing. So I just take it that people do like you, Joseph, and of course like Norma. She's British. She has such a wonderful accent and of course pronunciation. You guys just love me and of course give me space to learn and grow and also do pay attention. I just love this. This is so profound.
Oh yeah, it's very cool. Now I say Don Juan, but also I'm almost I'm sure that in some parts of the world it's Don Juan, right? Not Don Juan, Don Juan. Now it all depends, right? Now the anglicized version is Don Juan, right? At least I came to discover later on, not Don Juan, right? As I thought first of all. And also Joseph, he's Gennaro, not Gennaro. So, Genaro is a different name to Genaro. Yeah. So that's why I think it's Genaro, probably. Yeah.
Our intent is to give them due respect. And this is what is important.
Correct.
So, yes, we will try to work on our pronunciation. But it doesn't make a huge difference because we love them. We are giving due respect. We are doing capillary.
Correct. Right. Because there is the person in the book, the character. right? In the book, in the person, whether they an actual person or not, totally relevant to us. But what's more important is the character to us. So Don Juan, to me, it's capital D Don Juan. Whereas if you write it in a sentence, I came upon Don Juan, it will be lowercase d, because Don is like saying sir or mister, right? It's an honorific, to be technical, right? You're saying it as respect. Like when we were kids, you went to your friend's house and you said, hello, Mrs. Fisher, or whatever, right? You always said Mr. and Mrs. You didn't call them anything else, right? Sometimes I guess you call auntie or uncle, but when you had to call their name, right? And likewise, Don Juan is the same thing. Rather than saying Mr. Matus, you said Don Juan, right? Different cultures have different ways of doing it. But for me, it's Don Juan is almost one word, right? It's capital D Don Juan, right? So it's taken in it, and now I'm talking about my character, my idea, my understanding of him, because I've taken him inside me. Same with Don Gennaro, right? I've taken him into me. So the difference in the name does have significance. It does have significance, yeah. It matters, and that's part of making things your own, right? And when you're naming things is absolutely very critical. So it's not that I'm not being disrespectful or not being respectful of his name or ignorant. It is somewhat deliberate, or not somewhat, it is very deliberate and very conscious, right? Yeah, it started off with ignorance, but like I said, I shifted Don Juan because to say Don Juan I was never comfortable with it. But Don Juan I like very much. Don Juan I like as well. And I suspect that's mostly how, at least here, I've heard it pronounced, because I'm in the Southwest, obviously, and I've heard it pronounced that way. But I'd still say Don Juan because that's who he is to me, you see, with a capital D. So it's a little different. And like I said, if I was speaking to them directly, I would still use that because it would be that like an intimacy of connection, right? We give people sometimes, like, we have a particular name for them or nickname, right? And sometimes it's because of a deeper connection, affection, reverence, respect, many reasons for doing that. So, but thank you for that, Joseph. Very cool. Thank you for that. Very cool. Very exciting. All right, let me just check on IG. Anybody? Yeah, Glau 2648 joined us, and so did Rashid Man. Right. Very cool that you guys are here. And guys being something that has become for all genders, right? So I know it started off male, but nowadays it applies to everybody. You folks, instead of saying you folks, we tend to say you guys. So you people are here. And you people is a bit, I don't know, somehow disrespectful. Right? So I love that you're here and enjoying. Please always comment, ask questions, let us know. We love that. I love that. It really matters. All right, Beena, anything to close with, to share?
Yes. So that is wonderful. Again, the emphasis, the understanding about the word doesn't work the way we assume it is, and it is actually very much in favor for all of us that it does not work the way we assume. Otherwise, life will not be fun. There will be no learning and growing. Every single time we assume something and we get like, no, sometimes disappointed, sometimes we feel like overwhelmed, and sometimes just excited and see like, wow, okay, so there is so much more to learn. This is to keep us grounded. The world doesn't work the way we suppose it is working. It is for grounding us, keep us grounded, keep us humble, and keep us, of course, keen to learn and grow. What is, I think that, okay, we don't have any precise opposites of ego, but sometimes I feel that learning and growing is actually an opposite for ego, because you want to learn, which means that I admit that, okay, what is outside me is so much bigger. Yes, I'm learning, I'm much better than who I was before, but still there is no limit. I need to more learn and grow, and of course, and it's fun. This is what keeps us alive. This is what the student mindset, this is what a learner mindset, which keeps not only you alive but also keeps you young.
Yes, I love this idea of learning and growing being a kind of potential opposite for ego. At least it's a fantastic, whether it's an opposite actually or not. Really so important. It's an alternate, and that's important.
Alternate.
Because when you think it through, right? Ego is seeking to define itself. Yes, and by being important. That's its definition.
Yes.
I'm important. Now, learning and growing says, if you really understand learning and growing, it's always temporary.
Exactly.
It can never be defined. And therefore, it is completely an alternate to ego because it's always temporary. It's transitory. You can't really claim it. And even though you figure it out for yourself, all learning, well, somebody else figured it out too. And somebody else did in the past. You can never know for sure if it's totally yours. Whereas that self-importance, this is, of course, yours. And of course, it isn't really. It's this myth that they seek through superiority paradigm. And it's one of those myths that can never be satisfied, right? It's a square circle, in other words. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very, very nice idea, this, to understand, right? That learning and growing as an alternative to ego. Fantastic title again for the clip, right? AI, take note, take note.
Yes, yes. So this is, and also some benefits of it. I think that, okay, at least my female friends would be like really interested in that. It always keeps you young.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Get
Oh yeah.
stuck
Oh yeah.
into that, which of course
Oh, yeah.
it just eliminate the possibilities of being rigid and being snobbish and being so all sort of nonsense.
Which
and
are all things related, connoted and connected to getting old.
Exactly.
Right? And learning and growing is connoted, nice word, connoted, and implied, connected to youth. So if you're always learning and growing, it keeps you young. Very good point, Beena. Very good point.
Exactly.
Very good point.
And also it keeps you motivated to learn new skills, which keeps you updated and connected, stay connected with the current scenario, current environment. And also it keeps you updated that you don't feel outcast, like, okay, oh, I'm not used anymore. It always keeps you feel useful and relevant and part of the system. So many benefits of learning and growing all the time. And also that, of course, when you are learning something new, I don't know exactly, but for me, I feel that it releases a lot of happy hormone in me, that, okay, oh yes, okay, I learned something new. So which makes me happy also. A lot of benefits of learning and growing, other than just also that, okay, what is the word you use for that? Alternate for ego.
Alternate to ego, yes. Like Moreness-Culture, it is an alternative culture, an alternate culture, both alternative and an alternate culture. It's not the only alternate culture, but it is an alternate culture. Right? Very potent alternate culture. Very good to be aware.
Thank you so
Wonderful stuff.
Thank you so much, Don Juan, and thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you so much, Joseph, and Rashid Khan, and of course, whoever is going to watch us recorded on YouTube and of course in the Sassy group. Please do click like and subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment there. And if you have some questions, please do ask questions, because we love questions. I really appreciate everyone, whoever they're going to ask some questions. And if not, please just show your presence, because by doing so, you're going to train this algorithm, your online algorithm, which is going to ultimately train your life algorithm, because ultimately they are seen. So whatever you are going to choose here, it is going to affect your life also. So please do pay attention.
Very important.
And support. Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Finish up. I just want to have a quick little fun add-on.
Support channels like this. Okay, this tiny channel. If this tiny channel is making some value in your life, so please do appreciate it, because this appreciation is very much needed. Exactly like the gratitude really matters in our normal life. To get more value, more happiness, more moreness in our life, exactly the same. It applies to the same thing to the online algorithm, that showing the other version of gratitude is just clicking like. That's it. Appreciation. Just appreciate and have more goodness in your life. more value.
Exactly. So when you do this, when you show appreciation, you're the beneficiary because you're training your algorithm to bring more of this into your life. Yeah? More things that you can appreciate, more appreciation also of you. So it's very magical the way it works. Very, very magical. Real quick, I said, since we were talking about pronunciation, I said Glau 2648. Now, it made me think, we have a friend whose last name, I think, begins with Glau. Right? It's like a complicated name to pronounce. So Glau 2648, maybe Chaya. And it's not pronounced Glau, but Chlau. It would be Chlau 2648. Right? And it's Chaya. Okay, I'm teasing Gaia a little bit, but anyway. I don't know. I never heard her say her name. So it maybe she pronounces it Chaya. It's quite possible. Could be Cha'ia as well. I don't know. Yeah, different possibilities.
Yes.
Anyway, so Glau or Chlau, either way.
Oh yes.
We're having fun with that.
Oh yeah.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Welcome to our channel. Welcome to this Moreness-Culture, this tiny hub of Moreness-Culture. Please, we love your presence here. And next time, if you are here again, we almost do the same at the same time every day except Saturday. We are here, and you can join us. We will do. Right now, we are doing capital R reading of Don Juan's. Okay, again, these are Carlos' works about Don Juan or Don Juan's works about so many things. I just love to say we are just meeting. We are trying to connect with Don Juan.
Oh yeah, we are not trying. We are connecting with him. Yes, for me, Don Juan lives inside me. I know him. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel very confident in saying this. It's not an arrogant perspective because I'm basing this on when I say I know Beena. And I share how I know Beena with Beena, and she confirms it. Yeah. And I practice this. I don't just believe I know, I actually test my knowing. It's part of Way-Of-Impeccability. So I have good reason to say that when I come to know somebody, I verify and check it. And therefore, based on that experience with many, many people, I can now say that I feel I know Don Juan. Especially since I've made a real effort to do so much more intently and intensely than I have with most other people, right? Way more. And likewise with Don Gennaro, right? Don Gennaro. Very cool. Very cool. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, maybe maybe somebody will come on, a native Spanish speaker from this area, because pronunciation is different in South America sometimes, and definitely different in Spain, right? So, and of Don Juan, I believe, also has connections to like Italian or even French, and they may say it differently again, right? Yeah. So, in English, Juan is John. Same name, spelled differently, but it's the same name, just pronounced differently. John, Juan, right? John.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
one of
very
my
interesting
friends
to be aware.
who is French, and his name was derived from it was like Happel Sholem, and he says that, and which was derived from Arabic name Abdul Salam.
Wow. Yeah, it's fascinating how things get, and how people pronunciation changes because of reading.
Exactly.
You see it many times in the language. The word is pronounced one way because it was originally read differently to the way it was originally pronounced, right? And you get that translation effect, like John and Juan, right?
Exactly.
You say J, you read it and you don't know how to pronounce it. Juan, like I said, Juan, John. See, somebody hears me. It's hard to say Juan because it's got a break in the pronunciation, and we don't like to do that. We like to merge things together. It's much simpler and more fluid. So Juan becomes John.
Yes. So many things, like my name. This is very, very interesting because my name is a Persian name, and which means that a person with foresight and can see further, with wisdom and knowledge and intelligence. And in Hindi, it means an instrument, musical instrument. And in Italian, I guess it means a tall building.
Same meaning.
Wow.
Different
Wow.
meanings.
Yeah.
So
So in other words, don't put too much stock in the meaning of your name.
exactly.
Just
Exactly.
a
Exactly.
self-importance reminder. A self-importance reminder. Oh,
Exactly.
my name means
Exactly.
wonderful. You know, princess, queen.
No,
You know,
no.
like
I
my
was
name. Yeah.
thinking I sometimes feel that it's a kind of a burden. Okay, I
Correct.
don't care much care about this, but it's like, oh, you are intelligent. I am not. So then okay, my parents
Exactly.
named me, so okay, what can I do about it? Or
Yeah.
like beautiful or something else. If a
Yeah.
person is not, so then
Yeah.
what they can do about it? Okay, so you
Exactly.
got something because continuously a reminder, and then you
Yeah.
try to be intelligent and up with foresight
Right.
and okay, learn and grow and all that, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything. It's a
Yeah.
name. It's that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying that. Okay, in Italian, it means a tall building or a musical
That's why I
instrument,
like Syl. Yeah.
which
That's
is
why I like
hollow
my
inside.
exactly, exactly, exactly. You know,
So it doesn't
and
make any difference.
yeah, we extract meaning to feed the ego, which is a
Mm,
poor way
not
of connecting to meaning. Yes,
no, not
extract
necessary.
meaning to get value. Well, I'm saying in the superiority paradigm, typically, I mean, by implication, typically, you of course don't, which is why you're saying all of this.
Actually, Syl, we enjoy this privilege and being a privileged species as human
Yeah,
because we are the only one who have different thing. Like you are Syl, but you are a man, okay? And
yeah,
then of course you are human. A monkey is just monkey and happy.
wow,
End of the discussion. Nothing. They are just
yeah.
monkey. They are just lion. They don't have all these things, okay? We are the only one who love
Or at
to have
least
this
so we
identity
assume.
and
At least so we
uniqueness.
assume.
Oh, yes, at least so, as we assume. So they are different, but they don't carry this burden of uniqueness. We just flaunt our uh, privilegedness
Yeah,
of being
yeah,
privileged.
yeah. Just a quick perception here and say a human being, a monkey, you're saying. I have an ant problem and I'm actually waiting for my ant remedy, by the way. It hasn't come yet. But anyway, right? And I observe ants, not just because I have ants here now, but in the past also. And when we observe ants, any animal actually, we're observing them without language. Try this on humans.
Hmm.
When you look at humans without language, everything changes. When you look at our actual behavior, yeah, and especially if you zoom out, like if you're an alien orbiting in your spaceship, all right, or remote viewing the Earth, and basically you're seeing humans running around like on the size of ants. How is our behavior any different to that of ants? You see us streaming along the roads and the highways. You see us congregating, doing things in abstractly. Our behavior, movement-wise, isn't going to be very different to that of ants. Yeah,
Yep.
makes you think. See, for me, this has always been a very profound thought exercise. Why? Because I'm assuming ants are this and that because I can't hear them. I have no idea what's going on over there. I mean, we're having wonderfully complex conversations. We are not all humans do this, of course, but who knows? The same might apply to ants. In general, they're going about their business, just whatever, like most people, just doing, and they're not looking at deeperness or moreness, or occasionally. Right? But that doesn't mean that there aren't some ants who might be doing this. Yeah, we never know. Right? And how much didn't I have to conform? If you look at my behavior as a teenager, I was a typical ant doing typical ant things. I kept my private life private, not because it was a secret. If anybody asked, I would have shared, but because it wasn't strategic to share it. Right? So I conformed, at least, within the range of conformity. You have a lot of behavior which, okay, is a little different, but it's still within the norm. You're not an outlier. Don't be an outlier. And I was aware of this, right? But it's just interesting when you think of it from a perspective point of view. Alien looking at me as a teenager would not have known necessarily, wouldn't have been able to tell that there was all this other stuff going on inside me. Yeah, I was a psychologist and a philosopher and thinking all the stuff and learning, growing, applying, doing, applying. Yeah, we never have seen that. Yeah, we might not see it in other species because we don't hear the language. Yes, Beena? Very profound point. Yeah, very, very profound point. Yeah, very big deal. All right, all right. Beena, wonderfulness.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Again, we took a lot of time, but from tomorrow we will try our best to keep our eyes on time and be precise, because we are going to practice our TV show, upcoming TV show.
Oh, tomorrow we have extra practice. Yes, because
yes.
Yeah, Beena gonna be the guest on my interview show.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Right,
yes.
Beena, right?
Yes. 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 Will be.
Very exciting day tomorrow. But yes, tomorrow we're going to practice more specifically and deliberately. Great, Beena.
And what a pity that we will only have like 30 minutes. See?
Oh, we're gonna do
is just
no.
just
With Jill is 30 minutes.
Yes,
but
yes.
in our open tomorrow, in this
Yes.
one, we will do 45 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
Because that's our show is going to be an hour-long show, but it's because of the commercials, it's going to be 45 minutes.
So from tomorrow I'm going to just take 2 minutes in the beginning, so then 2 minutes and 3 minutes at the end to wrap it up. So like 40 minutes for Don Juan's reading. That's it. This is how we are going to distribute it.
Wow. All right, we're going to be very disciplined. We're going to imagine we have our producer with us, right?
Yes. So 2 minutes for Beena in the beginning, and Syl is not going to interrupt me at all, because it will be only 2 minutes. And at the end, it will be 3 minutes, and I'll give only 1 minute to Syl and then 2 minutes again.
Wow. Beena, that's an idea. Let's invite the engineer, Dan, right? Let's invite him to come and engineer for us on a live.
First, we will practice for a week, and then we will do that.
Yeah. And maybe he can even bring some commercials, and we'll even run some commercials.
Yes, we will see that.
Oh, just for the fun of it. Okay. Just for the fun of it, just to practice. I love this idea. Oh, brilliant. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you guys tomorrow.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Yes. And live video on Instagram.